When she finished, she said, "You know, God talks a lot about the poor, so maybe I better do something." And I said, "Our town hasn't any poor." And it is a prosperous little town of about 4,500. She said, "I'll look for it." Well, she found Hispanics, illegal, living in abandoned chicken houses that nobody knew about, places that were empty and vacant, all over. And she started to work out a program of feeding them, then helping them to take care of themselves. And she carried this into other communities, including Fresno, a city of a few 100,000. It's just one woman who read her instruction manual and felt the Lord called her to do this particular task. Well, I'm going to stop now. I've given you a few examples of what's happening. I believe God is working. I believe right now we are on the brink of the worst economic collapse the world has ever seen. It's going to make the Depression of the 30s and the fall of Rome look like child's play by comparison. But great things are happening because the Lord is preparing people here, there, everywhere, all over the world, to say, look, the government is upon His shoulders, and He's laid a burden on mine. I have to do something. And they're doing it. Any questions there? Let me ask you to speak up because this cold bug affected my ears in the flight here, so I'm half deaf.
What, in your view, should be some steps that Christian families take in view of the fact that we're about to experience some economic upheaval? What are some of the things that you would suggest?
Yes. I think a Christian family, to prepare for what's coming, should first of all strengthen its family devotions. Because you're going to need faith to go through what's happening. 105,000 people lost jobs last year, according to official figures. And it's growing every month. Then, next, get out of debt as fast as you can. As fast as you can. And stay out of debt. Third, work in your church to organize something to help any members who might be those who lose jobs this month today. Now, this can be done in two ways. First, the deacons can create an interest-free loan fund. An interest-free loan fund to help those who are in emergency situations. If they can't repay it in 6 years, it's forgiven. But what happens in many instances is they not only repay it, they add to the fund. Then have each family in the church contribute something so that there's a food storehouse in the church, canned goods, whatever, dry beans, rice, and so on, so that the deacons can take care of distributing this to the needy people. Then line up some jobs for the needy families, so that if there's a job to be done around the church, say the man can do it. In other words, let him contribute something for what he has received. That's very important. You see, then you are a church where you are members one of another. Then organize the women of the church to help wherever there are needs. Now, one of the great needs you'll find is with the elderly. Because what we are likely to see is more and more joblessness with more and more inflation. And people on pensions and Social Security aren't going to make it. So, if the deacons will organize a group of women, that's what the widows, the order of widows was about, that Paul wrote about. To go calling on these elderly people, to find out who needs help and what kind of help, and to notify the deacons. You see, that's what it means to be members one of another. So it's very important for the church to organize itself in this way. Now, what I'm saying may sound very new, but I'm probably the oldest one here. I'm 75. Is there anyone here who's that old? No. Okay. Most people in the world have been born since 1950. They don't know what the world was like before. What I'm describing was common, at least in the small town and farm areas that I grew up in. It was done routinely. And a lot of preachers who had almost no paycheck were kept alive by this sort of thing, as well as a lot of the elderly members. Now, one thing that I don't know whether you can start it here, but is still common in California and a lot of the small town churches. All through the spring, summer, and fall, there will be several tables like this spread in the lobby of the church. And the farmers will bring in boxes of peaches, of squash, of tomatoes, you name it. There will be another box of paper bags for people to help themselves take it home. And during the Depression, this was the way a lot of people ate. And this was once routine, and as I say, it's still routine in a lot of California churches, in the small town areas. We take care of one another. And may I say, gleaning, which existed in some parts of the country after World War II, is returning again. Northern California, this last year, the gleaners and a lot of the young people went out to help with the gleaning for the old folks who couldn't do it. They gleaned several 100 tons of apples, which they sold to give money to the elderly in need. Just a good old-fashioned biblical device. Yes.
I'm interested in national politics, and we know from Romans 13 that the state is to exist to punish evildoers.
Yes.
And I was wondering about the complexity of our society today. For instance, drugs, the FDA, and how we would monitor packaging and things like that in a Christian society where we have so many chemical compounds that are difficult to really know whether or not they're harmful or not. Could you see that issue?
We have those problems of drugs and crime because we have ceased to be godly. I never heard of drugs when I was growing up. It didn't exist. I lived in a small town of about 3,500 people. There was one police officer and occasionally a relief man. About once a year, it was a town that was 90% Swedish, and the rest around there were either a few Danes, some Portuguese, a number of Armenians like myself, a few Italians, and maybe 3-4 families whose native language was English. The mayor was a Swede who could barely speak English. It was a community of foreign-born. About once a year, an old Swede would drink a little too much, and the old Swedish cop would throw him in jail overnight. It was the talk of the high school. Somebody was in jail. What a big event. It was the event of the year in town. Nobody locked their doors. Thieving was unknown. Now, in that same town, they have 900 more people. 4,500. My second cousin was mayor, and I was last talking to him. He said, we have 18 police cars on patrol on 3 shifts. And we have office dispatchers and whatnot. Keeping up with crime is a problem. But what's the difference? Unbelief and modernism. When I grew up, I only knew of one family in the area that did not go to church faithfully. And we all thought they were crazy. A man had to be crazy not to believe in God. That was our opinion as kids. And we regarded the kids in that family as freaks because none of them believed in God. Their father didn't believe in God. Their mother didn't believe in God. They had to be freaks. Did all this come out of nothing? That was too staggering a miracle to believe in. So, you see, your police, your drug problem is due to the loss of faith.
I was also wanted you to address, from a governmental standpoint, ingredients in food and how that might be regulated in a Christian state.
Regulate what?
Regulated in a Christian state, or the federal drug agency, I guess it is, keeps track of the various compounds in foods and medicines.
Yes.
Could you comment on how that might be regulated or policed or in a Christian society?
Yes. Well, we have substituted regulations for laws. when you regulate everybody. When you have